Welcome back to IR's Tech. In this video, we will see how to create a custom tooltip by using pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let's begin. I'm going to create a basic file and add a basic HTML5 code to start from. Now I want to add tooltip. To add a tooltip, I need some dummy text. So I have added this dummy text. You can, I think this is a VS Code default feature. If you type lorem and if you press enter, it would generate a random paragraph for you, and you don't have to type yourself. So I have generated a lot of text. Now I want to add some tooltips on some of the words. So for example, I want to add tooltip around this. Before doing that, I want to preview this change in my browser. So let me change the size of the text. All right. So now I will select some words that I want to use to show a tooltip. For example, this bold word, if I hover my mouse over it, then it should show a tooltip near to this word. For that, I would use a class. You can think of any class name, but I would call it tooltip. Okay, and you can and I also want to provide the text for that tooltip. For that, I can use another attribute data tooltip text. And in this, so you can use any name for this attribute. I just use this for adding a text. So I would add the content here. This is a simple tooltip. So whenever user hover his mouse over this text, then we will show a tooltip that would have this content in it. So right now it is not working at all, and so I'm going to add some JavaScript code to make it functional. I would register an event, mouse over event, whenever user hover a mouse on any of the elements that have the tooltip class on it. Then we would call our function, and that function would generate a tooltip that would be shown around that element. So to register an event on every elements with the same class name, we there might be different approaches, but this is one of those approaches that you just use document.querySelector all. So we are using querySelector all function because we want to capture all of the elements that have this class name. So that's why we use the all selector all function. So now in this function, I would pass the class name, the selector, and the selector is tooltip. By the way, it is not compulsory to use the query selector all. You can also use another function that is called get element by class name. If you do that, then you don't have to type the dot to mention the class because it is, as the function is saying, it is class name. So you just have to mention the name of the class tooltip, and that's it. But I'm more comfortable with the query selector because it's more like the CSS selectors that you normally write in your CSS code. So I normally prefer to use query selector. So in that, you just type the tooltip, and now I would store all of those tooltips in a variable tooltip elements. So all of the tooltip elements are saved in this variable. But by the way, when you use this syntax, it would give you all of the elements that can be accessed uh, with the help of the indexes. For example, you can access any element by passing this tooltip elements 0 or 1 or 2. So all of the elements are available on specific indexes. uh, but the issue is that this would not give you a pure array. So this is not a pure array. If it is not a pure array, then you cannot use any kind of array functions like map, for each, or filter, things like that. So if you want to use native arrays functions, then you have to convert into a pure array. For that, I normally do this. I created an array and I spreaded all of the elements of this response into that new array. So now this is a new array with the tooltip elements. So if you type the variable name and type dot, it would show you in the VS Code. It would show you all of the functions of an array. Okay, for example, map, for each. But if you don't do this, and if you try to use directly the response of the query selector all, then that would not give you these options. For example, uh, even if it is showing here, but it will not work. So for example, I would show you here in the console. So let elements is equal to document dot query selector all, and tooltip elements dot for each. So I think for each is available. So if it is available, then I think we don't need to convert it into the new array. So we can just use it as it is. So type for each, and in this for each, it is going to give me the element one by one, tooltip element. Now I'm getting every tooltip element in this loop. I would register an event on every tooltip by typing tooltip element dot add event listener. So this would add an event listener on every tooltip element, and I would use the name on mouse over. For now, I would alert it and to see if it really works. So for that, add alert to do. And now I would try to hover my mouse over this to see if I see any alert. Yes, alert is showing. That's mean uh, uh, we have registered an event. So we can write our logic within it. So now we want to show a tooltip near to that section, near to that word that we have here. For that, I'm going to create an element. So let element is equal to document dot create element, and in this element I would tell the type of the element. I want to create an element of type div. Now I want to insert some content into it. I want to insert the same content that we have in this attribute. So whenever you hover an element, that event gives you the target, uh, and from that target uh, you can get the any information of that element. For example, you can get all of the attributes. So I would use that event, and in that event I would get the let tooltip content is equal to e dot target. You can use current target, that is more accurate. So this would, if you use e dot current target, then that would give you this exact DOM object for you to use. So I have the DOM object. I can now get the attribute. So to get attribute, we as we want to get attribute, this attribute to get this content, so we can just call a function dot get attribute. And in this function, I would just pass the attribute name as we want to get content of this attribute. So we can just pass it on. And now we should have the content. To make sure if it is working correctly, we can alert this content. So if I see this exact content correctly, then that means our logic is working correctly so far. So let's see. You can see the content is being shown in the alert. So it is dynamically getting that content. And I will add this. By the way, it is not compulsory to add tooltip every time. You a tooltip class every time. Even if you just have this attribute, we can make it work. You can just remove it, and to make it work, you can use this selector to add your event listeners. For example, instead of adding dot tooltip class name, I would mention that I want to select all those elements which have this exact attribute on them. So if any element has this attribute on it, then we will get those elements and add our event listener on them. So you would notice it would still be working fine. Now I am going to add same kind of tooltips on some other words to see if those works. And this time I would add different text tooltip 2, and similarly here as well. And this is tooltip 3. So if I hover my, actually, sorry, I deleted the bold tag from this one. So, okay. So this is tooltip 2, tooltip 3. So whenever user hover their mouse on them, they will see the different content. Uh, Sorry, this one was the typo. Okay, so these three words, so this is showing this tooltip, and here it is showing a different content, and this one is showing a different content. So we are getting a different content every time. Now we need to add that content in the new element that we created. So to add a content into an element, we just use element dot inner HTML is equal to tooltip content. So this would add all of the content into that element. Now this element, DOM element, is still a virtual element. To insert into the DOM, you can do something like this. For example, document dot uh, uh, dot append child, and you have to give it a DOM element. So with this approach, it would append it into the document. 1 second. Only one. Okay. So document dot get element document, let me try dot body. Okay. 1 second. So now we have used body to append that child. Let's see if that works. Okay, you can see that now we are appending our child, our content into the body, but this is not what we want. You can see it is every time adding more and more, and it is not removing. And we don't want it like that. We want to hover. We want to add it somewhere here. So So every time user hover, every time we insert append that child, we should remove all other tooltips because normally we show only one tooltip at a time. So to for that, I would have to add a class or ID name over that tooltip. For that, uh, element dot add dot class list dot add. I'm going to add a class name to it, and that would be tooltip. So this is actually a tooltip class, and whenever I am going to insert a tooltip into the body, I want to remove all of the tooltips before doing that. So document dot query selector all tooltip dot for each. So I want to remove every tooltip element. For that, remove child or remove. Let's try remove. So every time we hover, we are going to insert a tooltip. It would try to get all of the existing tooltips from the document and would try to remove them. So let's see if issue is fixed. Yes, every time you can see it is showing only one tooltip and it is removing all other tooltips. So next, uh, we need to style this tooltip. Okay, so I'm going to add a CSS for that tooltip. Position fixed. For now, by default, I'm going to add only one left 0 pixel and top also 0. We would change these values later in our function, but for now, I'm just doing it for designing purpose. So background color RGBA 0.8 and color should be white and border radius should be 5 pixel round and font size should be I guess 15 pixels and font family should be Arial. So let's see if that works. You can see this is how it looks like, and we also need a padding around it, 20 pixels. I think it is looking much cleaner now. So next task is we have to adjust the position of this tooltip so that it could show near to the word where we are hovering our mouse. So for that, uh, I have to get the position of the element where I'm hovering my mouse. Okay, so I have to get the XY coordinates. For that, uh, I have the target element. Uh, I can use that. Let left actually what is equal to e dot current target dot. We have a function, and that function is called get bounding client react. This would give you an object with the left, right, top, and bottom position for you of that element. So in this, we would have the positioning information for the element where we are hovering our mouse. So if I am hovering my mouse over this word, then that would give me the x, y coordinates for this element. So x means it is horizontal, y mean it is vertical. But in this, we don't have to use the word x, y. We just have to use the word top left, bottom right. Okay. So for example, if you want to see how many pixels it is far away from the left edge of the browser, I would just use quads dot left. I am going to alert it to see how much it is. So let's see. So this is 356 pixels away from the left position of the body. And this is 1684 pixels away from the left position. And this one is 1485. So these are the pixels that I can use to add style. So for example, now I can simply do element dot style dot left is equal to pixels, and similarly top is equal to top quads dot top dot. Okay, so look at this. Now it is the tooltip is showing near to that word, and it is working very dynamically. But still, there is a room for improvement. We can improve it further. For example, right now it is overlapping the word. That is not a good user experience. We have to move it a little bit towards the right direction so that we could see the actual word. For that, I would add some additional pixels to the left property. For example, I want to I want to add the same. I want to push it the amount of pixels, the same amount of pixels that equal to the width of that element. So to get the width of the element, I can just use the element once again. Yeah. If you want to see the width consumed by your element, you can just do this dot width. Let's see. So the width of actually this is not giving me a width. And let me console that to see how to get a width. So it has given you this element. I'm going to try to see what. So to get the width of the element where you're hovering your mouse, for that I would use e dot current target dot client width. So let's see what we get when we hover our mouse. It is giving us 0. That is not correct. The reason is that the b tag is actually inline element. It should be block or inline block. So I'm going to add a default style to this element. For example, I want to make all elements with this attribute to be display inline block so that I could calculate their width. So now if you hover your mouse over them, you will see it. This word is consuming 72 pixels of width, and this one is consuming 93 pixels of the width. So I just have to add this amount of width to the to this number to move it to right word to so that we could see our word. So for that, I would say and I would add it into a parenthesis. Actually, let's keep it as it is. And so let's see if that works. So you can see that now we can clearly see our word, but it should be a little bit far away. For that, I would add 5 pixels further to it. Okay, now it is looking perfect. So this is how you can create a tooltip, and now it is very dynamic. You just have to, whenever you want to add another tooltip, you just have to add. You can use any element. B is not bold is not compulsory. You can use span or whatever you want. but I'm using v tag just to make it more prominent. So just add a v tag and add a direct attribute data tooltip and add your content in here. So it would start work without doing anything. So you can see it is showing hello world and it is showing this one. Now, one last change that we want is that, so when you hover your mouse over it, it shows the tooltip. But when you mouse out your, when you moves your mouse out of that element, it should hide that tooltip, but it is not hiding. So for that, actually, you have to add another event listener if you hover your mouse out of that element. So for that, uh, I would register another event in the same manner, and here I would actually create a function to reuse a code function remove all tooltips. Okay, whenever you hover your mouse out of, and when you mouse over, when you mouse out your cursor from that word, it would remove all of the tooltips. So this is the code that removes all of the tooltips. So I would just use that and call my reusable functions. Okay, so document.querySelector all. All right. And here in this new event listener, I would use the name mouse out. Whenever you mouse out, then we want to remove all of the tips automatic. Let's see if that works. Yes, it is working. When you hover your mouse out of that word, it would remove the tooltip for you. So I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope this would be helpful for you in your projects. So if you liked my video, then please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.